In October 2020, I invested in a historic building in downtown Rochester.
The building that will be hosting Marrow. They have really cool shelving with all of the cool plants that I'll kill.
I had now committed a lot of time with them and looking for buildings, so I was more than committed to try to help seeing this potential through.
Everything takes longer than you think it's gonna take.
One of the oldest buildings in downtown Rochester, you'll find at the very top, it says 1858. We'll call it the most aged, well-aged maybe, like fine wine. This building is getting a change of use. We're getting a completely new restaurant, which was last office space, being completely changed to this new restaurant called Marrow. Locally owned by Sarah and Jeff Schwenker. Really excited for what this is going to bring not only to this building, but this entire block and stretch of downtown Rochester. Upstairs, it'll be a large one-bedroom apartment. Our intention is to have it for rental for either short-term or long-term, depending on what the clientele wants. With its location to the Mayo Clinic, we're really excited to see what the future holds for this property.
That's the funnest part, is that first moment that you show up at a building like this and you say to yourself, what are the possibilities for this space? And I wish that piece was held on a little longer, because you get to be creative, you get to throw out bad ideas, you get to throw out good ideas. And the group that Bucky's put together for these type of projects just bodes well for that creative communication. And so when we arrive to a building like that, I think you're thinking about 1,000 things at once. You know, what would work well for the space as it relates to Rochester as a community? As far as type of business. And then, you know, my mind immediately goes to process and nuts and bolts type thoughts, like, how am I going to get the demo out of this building? Where are my employees going to park while they're doing the construction? And then that just starts the process of trying to hone in what might work in a building like that.
As we continue through the process, we're getting over some major hurdles, one of them getting the hood hung up. Now we have to cut into the exterior of the building, get the venting out, and then up to the top of the property to the roof. We have tile that's being installed throughout the bathrooms, in the kitchen areas. Slowly but surely, this process continues, and we cannot wait to get to the finish line. We can really see it all coming together now.
And, you know, my opinion is that you can literally do anything. It's, do you have the time, the money, and the creativity to make it happen? And, you know, you're usually held to certain constraints on a project like this, and the fun part is just figuring out a way to get to that end goal creatively, efficiently, in order to make a project happen.
How's everything going?
It's
Good.
coming along. Yeah.
Everything looks really good. It's just moving
very
slower
slow.
than we'd like it to move.
Yeah. Just trying to fit all the puzzle pieces and
But yeah, it looks good.
get going. Yeah. It's all coming together.
Oh.
Looks cool.
Restaurants are definitely at the top of the list as far as challenges and cost, because commercial kitchens are just really expensive. They're pumping out a lot of food, so they require a lot of air exchange for the ovens and the grills that are in the kitchen. They require a lot of special equipment for the waste and the cleaning of the kitchen. So you require grease interceptors for all the waste to go to. You have 3 comp sinks, you have hand wash sinks. All the commercial equipment is rated to a higher level. So it's just more coordination and complication when it comes to making sure everything works together.
You know, when we started planning everything, I was like, okay, we have this beautiful package to present to the city. I thought we vetted everything. And it's just, there's always something new or a piece of information, and it's a revolving door, I feel like. It's gonna be cool. Food's awesome.
Yeah. That's important. Menu's pretty good.
Menu's pretty good. Yeah.
been a lot of wine and alcohol tasting the last week, which has been fun.
Nice. Putting in the hood ventilation system, figuring out where we're going with that.
Probably one of the biggest challenges was figuring out a way to make the hood exhaust work, as well as the makeup air unit that's required to bring in fresh air to the space and then exhaust the old air into the space. Just because there was not real estate within the property lines, and then we didn't want to put it on the roof, there was a lot of challenges on how do we make this ductwork work, get through code compliance and function properly. So we scratched our heads for a long time. We were able to fit it on the back side of the building with some tight ductwork, and ultimately it ended up working. I think honestly that was an unknown. This was what we wanted to do, and we weren't sure if it was gonna work until right about the very end. So whether it's gonna get approved for the city or whether it's gonna actually physically work. And this was a situation where we just kept grinding on it, and we were able to make it work and function properly.
The grease trap situation now, getting that all squared away.
Rochester adopted what's called the FOG ordinance, and it means fats, oils, and grease. And really, ultimately, what it's designed to do is to keep that grease out of our sanitary sewer system because it's not good on that system. So with that, they made new requirements for restaurants to have a grease interceptor where all the floor drains, the mop sink, the 3-comp sink, sometimes the dump sink all tie into this grease interceptor where the water separates from the grease, water goes down the waste, and then the restaurant is responsible for emptying that grease trap. When you put a grease interceptor into a building that was built in the late 1800s, it causes some challenges on making sure the piping works and the location of the tank works with the system. But we were able to find a solution and get the piping to work out, and the box is there now.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that you don't think about.
We did a lot of planning up front without knowing if we were actually going to move forward, and that took buy-in from Jeff and Sarah. It took buy-in from the contractors.
It's an older building, a historic building, so making sure that we have the okay to make changes there. That was a big piece, getting the approval for that. I think another one was just kind of the upgrades that needed to happen to the building itself and to be able to support a restaurant here also.
This project at any point could be called off because we find that the budget truly doesn't make sense.
We're gonna look around. I'm just gonna look around the corner. I wanna see.
It needs a stainless steel wall or stainless steel panel that goes on this.
Did it have to be stainless steel?
Either that or tile.
Oh, gotcha.
With the right partners and with the right dreamers and realists all together, we were able to do this planning process that led to us seeing numbers that were in line with what we thought was fathomable to pull off to bring this restaurant to this building.
I think we first looked at the space last February.
I think so.
Immediately, I was just wanting to tear down walls, and then let's slow down a little bit.
You can make the budget look as accurate as you absolutely think the numbers should be or could be, but with old buildings, with intensive investment like a restaurant use into a space that hasn't been a restaurant use, with a hood, with a makeup air, with grease traps, with all these other things, there's all these unknowns that can change a number on your budget very quickly. Some of the specific ones we ran into is, there's electrical to the building, we should be good, right? It's not the right amount of electrical power, so then we have to reach out to the public utility company to figure out how we get the correct amount of power to then in turn power our hood, to then do everything we need it to do to actually make a restaurant run, and there's a cost involved with that, and we didn't have that line item in the budget. And so that is examples of the unknowns as a team we had to overcome as we went through this adaptive reuse project.
I feel like we've been very lucky that we have a community of people that are so supportive, whether it's like family or friends or people we're meeting, or just the culinary community here in downtown Rochester. I think that we've been really lucky to be able to ask our peers questions. And so having those resources has been huge. You know, the 11 p.m. random question I have, I can shoot a message to, you know, the owner of another restaurant, and they're totally helpful, which has been awesome.
We were talking about was something similar to that shelving. We want to utilize that space a little bit more, and even if it's something, you know, similar to like a sofa table size, you know, but have
This is
it-
like tomorrow.
I mean, I can even match the trim on that so that it will fit flush in there.
that would be great too.
Yeah.
What is going to be on the menu? And I don't do a great job describing it, so I'm so excited for you guys to describe what can be found on the menu.
Yeah, so the menu will range from about 15 to 18 savory items and desserts as well.
The new American, I guess, is kind of a generic term for it, but we'll utilize everything. It'll be pretty eclectic, but and I like to have fun with like Midwestern kind of dishes and kind of recreate those in kind of our own way.
Rochester, especially downtown, is going through a change right now. And that's due to COVID, that's due to mail, that's due to the many factors of what downtown is. And as most people are saying, I need to be in a place with parking, I need to be in a place outside of downtown. Here you come and you bring life to a building in downtown Rochester.
There's some really amazing things happening. A lot of cool things popping up, whether it's, you know, restaurants, bars, you know, speakeasies. I think we're just really excited to be able to be a part of that hub that's growing down here.
And we're starting to see that just with the diversity of different restaurants within walking distance of your location.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap it up with just a quick elevator pitch, because you will be open sooner than later. Why should people come in and experience your guys' first restaurant?
Well, Marrow, I would consider an ingredient-driven restaurant. You know, yes, we'll be utilizing, you know, classic French technique, but we'll have a little fun and humor with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can come in for a nice dinner, you can come and sit at the bar for a snack or a burger.
Your guys' food is not gonna be found on everybody's menu. It's not your standard. You find it down at, we won't name the big chain, but down the road.
It's gonna be different, it's gonna be fun. You're gonna try some things you've never tried before. And the menu will be, you know, switching up quite a bit.
We'll stay fresh.
I cannot wait to get in here and eat.
Starting to look like a restaurant.
For a while, it was still surreal to think that we had actually gotten here, that our doors were open and guests were coming in.
They heard a deafening sound.
Almost like an explosion behind us.
If you have honestly any questions whatsoever, Jeff and Sarah would be happy to share about this process. If you're a small business, if you're an entrepreneur aspiring to do something, seriously put something down in the comments and they will get back to you.
Des yeux de cristal, le parfum de tes joues.